Hey guys, it's Marcus here. This is White Knuckle, and in this video, I'm going to be giving you a guide to every room in this region. If you haven't played White Knuckle before, it's a pretty good climbing game that I'd highly recommend playing the demo of, which has a ton of content that you can play considering that it's literally free. If you have played the game before but have only played for like 6 or 7 hours, I'd suggest you just keep playing the game until you've beaten the campaign like twice. That way you get to like see all the rooms for yourself before they get spoiled, which while there isn't that much to spoil, I think learning to play the rooms yourself is also quite fun. Making the routes for yourself and stuff. This guide is mostly for people with like over 40 hours in the game, but if you have a bit less experience, I will try to accommodate that with alternative routes for some of the more difficult stuff. For speedrunners who think they already know everything there is to know, I'm sure you'll be able to find some things in these videos that are helpful, and you do not know what you don't know, you know? Alright, if you want to follow along in the game, I put the command for generating these rooms in the description, and if you want to know which room you were in during a run, you can just press F5 and it shows at the bottom left. I also have the mods that I use in the description, and into the video. Hello everybody, in this video I'm going to be covering all of the rooms in the drainage subregion of Pipeworks, and before I cover all of those I'm going to be covering this room. This room is the connecting room between Silos and Pipeworks. So yeah, before I go into the video, just gonna briefly talk about my mods. I got a zoom one, I have one that lets me do commands instantly, and I have one that covers that basically shows the chance of things spawning, as well as guaranteeing that they do spawn, and also messes up Bloodbug AI. Alright. So let's just start off with this video. Oh, not video. Let's just start off with this room. So for this room, there's two sections, right? There's this very tall first section, and then there's this part, then there's this part and this part. Really, I should have said 4 sections, but whatever. So for this first section, it's pretty simple. You just have 2 very long pillars that you can climb up, as well as this 18% chance at a grub. And I have 2 tips for this first section. So tip number 1 is the grub just spawning there. And the second tip is that you can actually climb anywhere on these pillars. It does not have to be the ladder itself, it can be any part of it, and that information is quite useful when collecting the scrub. You can make this jump here pretty consistently, and you can just do that. When going to this area, after going up from this room, I like to hit this button as quick as possible, and to do that I like to use the hammer because it's a much more consistent way of hitting buttons and it just has a bit more range. Alright, I'm gonna spawn in a baton real quick for this next part. Alright, got me my baton. Just gonna check all this stuff that they give you. And also this guy. Alright, so for this part, you can see that there is a pretty high chance at a grub here. So after you hit that button, I like to go straight here and then get this grub here. What you can do for this section is either just like throw some rebar like here and just get to this ladder and go there, or you can actually get up there with just a baton. And to do that, you want to get to this part right here. This is the only part of this wall that you can really grab. The rest of these computers you just don't have a handhold for. But this one part here does have a handhold, and you can use that as well as a baton to barely get up there. It's not an easy trick by any means, but is kind of useful if you don't have other items you want to use. I'm going to just show the clip of me doing it successfully because I still haven't learned this trick very well. Alright, that's good enough. I know that you can do it slightly better, but if you want to get into the micro of how to use batons, I am not your guy. I don't use them very much. While I do think they're underrated, I don't mess with them. Alright, so after you get that grub, if you want to, then you can get to this room. What I like to do is I trigger this sequence immediately and then I open this box. I'm just gonna set the death goo a bit lower. Alright, so here, after you grab that, there's this secret room right here, which has a lot of goodies. Guaranteed pill bottle, rebar rope, injector, slug grub. Those are all the relevant ones, but there's also a floppy disk and an auto baton. You used to be able to reach that room with just a rope rebar, but I'm pretty sure that you can't do that anymore because of the update they did where they added the shortcuts. This little section right here, when they added it, I think they made this room just a bit taller. So if you don't want to use a grub to get to this section, what you can do is you can use a rope rebar on this to get up to this section here. And then once you're at this section, you can go here, and then you need some item, right? It's like a baton or a rebar, put it into this wall, and then you can just grab this baton and get there. Then you can just grab all your stuff, and then just go to the left like this, and then just run straight through. Okay, now before I start covering the rooms, I'm just gonna give you the main characteristics of drainage system. So in drainage system, most of the rooms have a lot of different paths that are all pretty much viable in their own way, depending on your like circumstances. So yeah, it's a sub-region that's got like a lot of choice in how you run it, and there's also got quite a lot of denizens to deal with, especially all these barnacles. You can see here that these only actually have a chance and they only spawn in hard mode. An effect of the chance mod that I have is that it makes it so all barnacles spawn. So when I'm running these rooms, they're going to have all of the barnacles spawn when it's very unlikely that this happens. Like there's only a 1 in 50 chance this happens, that both of these spawn. Anyway, so yeah, I'm just gonna begin. So for this room, you have this little sequence here, you go up, and then what you can do is you can just go into this wall from here. You can see that there's a grub spawn right here. It's at 12%, which is pretty decent. What I like to do is I use a baton after grabbing here. I put a baton up here, and then I go straight to the end. If you don't have an item to use to be able to use this vent here, you can just go through this area. Just after going here, you can just grab like this and then go right to the end. It's a pretty short room, pretty basic. Yeah, not really much to it. If you're wondering about this baton, it only has a 50% chance to spawn, and that's only if you're in hard mode. No idea why this can only spawn in hard mode. Doesn't really make any sense to me to make the game easier in hard mode, but whatever. There's not really much to that room. Alright, now there's this room. You can recognize this room quite easily with this little formation right here, or by this like air vent or whatever. What I like to do for this room is that there is this little cache of items right here. There's an injector, guaranteed food, guaranteed rebar, and then from here you can just grab onto this rebar and go to the next section. I'm just going to cover clearing the first section first. So you go into this room, you can grab like this to get to this cache, and then you can just grab this rebar and go straight to this section. Alternatively, you can go like this, but as you saw from there, you save like maybe 1 or 2 seconds if you are even saving time, and you're sacrificing all of these items. So I personally think this route is better, but if you're really trying to save a couple seconds and you already have a ton of items, then yeah, just go this ladder path. Alright, onto this second section. Okay, so for the second section, there's an explosive rebar because it can spawn right there. It doesn't really matter. For this room, just... you can go like that, it's whatever. That's pretty much it for that room. For this room, there are 2 food spawns in this water, as well as a bunch of brick spawns that don't really matter. I'm just gonna kill these guys because they're really annoying when making these guides. Alright, that's it. So, when you go into this room, usually what I see most people do is they'll be turning around like this, but that makes you very vulnerable to mistakes. So, and it's also not as fast as the path I'm going to show you. What I like to do is I just stay going forward and I use these handholds right here. So then I'm facing the same direction the whole time, which just simplifies things. You can see that this room takes up a lot of stamina, so at this point you're really expected to have food items and to just know how to use them on the fly. Yeah, that's basically it for that room. Pretty simple one, there's not really many item spawns. Alright, so next there is this room, which has a shortcut here, and then a long ray here, but then another shortcut here. The fastest way is to go through here and then take this shortcut that's right here. You're going to need like a baton or a rebar, or if you're on steroids you can also go from this and make it directly to this one if you're accurate. Otherwise, your second best option is to go through this vent. You can go through this vent without any items, but this jump here is a pretty long one, but you can do it. Then you go through here and you climb through this room that has like a ton of denizens around. And then I think the worst way is to not take either of the shortcuts, though you do get to see some items, so if you're really in the need for food, then I guess you can not take either of the shortcuts. Anyway, I'm just going to show you both of the 2 fast ways now. Alright, so if you do have a baton and you want to go the fastest way... Damn, the hoppers can fly. You can decide to hammer the baton if you want. It's a bit slower to hammer the baton, but it's a lot safer, because you only have like half a second. Yeah, and that's the fastest way. The second fastest way, when you're taking this shortcut, is to take down the cover. And then you can go here, and then you can just go like this. My execution there wasn't perfect, but that's pretty much the route. Alright, on to this room. So for this room, you have this section right here where there's just a ton of barnacles that are blocking you from getting to this ladder. And then you have this annoying little turbine to go through. Yeah, there's not really many choices for this room. So, and it's also a pretty short room, so I'll just show it now. You go up this ladder, go up this little turbine thing, and then you can grab this little grate in the wall, and you're at the end. And that's pretty much it for that one. Couldn't resist. Alright, on to this next room. So, for this room, you can either go to this big chasm, or you can go through this whole thing. And then there's another chasm or another shortcut, and then there's also a secret here. Alright, so for this room, fastest way is to go up here, though this is also the most difficult way. At the start here, you either need the barnacle to have a tentacle that's low enough to grab, or you need an item to kind of boost you up to the first handhold. From here you just keep going, and you can see here that there's a blood bug spawn, which, as you can see from here, it would be super annoying to fight this guy, so what I like to do is just go really fast through this section to avoid having to fight them. If you do get hit, then you're probably just going to fall down because of how the handholds are. So your best option if you hear them is to hammer them away. That just brings you through this vent, and then you go through here, and then you grab here, and you're at the end. If you don't take this route, right, if you don't take this route here, then you got to go the normal route. And in this route, there is this secret right here. I don't think it is worth going for because you can see how long it takes just to get into this room. And there's like a grub spawn that's only at like a 1 in 3 chance, and then some pretty useless items here. There's also one of these guys who spawns, but they don't even give that many roaches. They give you like 1 white roach and that's about it. There is, however, a food spawn which is quite nice, and as well as this rebar that can spawn. From here you just do dino jumps to get here, and then once you're at this point you can either directly go upwards here. Again, there's a blood bug that can be quite annoying. Or what you can do from this point is go this way, where there's a food spawn, this little shortcut, and also an item spawn here, where there's a guaranteed pill bottle and a 1 in 4 chance at a grub. I think that this section is the better route, but if you are like starving for stamina items, then you can go this way. The main reason why you'd want to use this route is because it's closer to these items here. So if you do want to go for these items, then this route can be faster than that route. But I'd suggest just going this route. But if you don't have enough stamina items, then yeah, you gotta get your stamina items. Alright, onto this next room. So you can see here that there's a vent, and this is like the secret path of this room, but I don't think it is the faster route. I'm pretty sure it's a slower route than the normal way of going about things. There is a food spawn here, but usually I ignore it because it's kind of in the corner. So what I do when I get into this room is I just go straight up this ladder, and then for this section you can use the barnacle if it has a tentacle low enough. If it doesn't have a tentacle low enough, you either need to use an item or wait. If you're desperate for an item, a baton is guaranteed to spawn here, and I've never seen that before. Alright, so yeah, next to this ladder, there's always a baton that can spawn right here, and you can just decide to use that instead. Why is there so much vibration? Okay, that was weird. I know that there are like the secret, well not so secret, but like the random screen modifiers that can happen, but never had one like that. So you can just go up, do some more dino jumps. And then here, there's a 35% chance at an injector along with 2 food spawns that you can decide to grab through there. And then there's these 2 blood bugs that can spawn here, well, do spawn here. What you can do is either you can like have this rebar, and usually these blood bugs can be right on top of you and you can try to hit both of them with this rebar. I never succeed. Well, sometimes I do, but it's pretty rare. This is quite difficult. And then there's this guaranteed food bar that's right underneath that chair, that's why I lobbed it around. Yeah, with the power of the food bar, you can actually directly get to this that rebar that's right there. I'll just show you. From here you can grab the rebar directly. I messed it up there because the blood bugs were in the way, but it's fine. That's pretty much it for that room. Alright, next room we have similar to that first room I showed, except this one is a lot more complicated. There is a secret here, where there's a 20% chance that this little cover does not spawn, and you get to see these items here. This is a pretty powerful secret, you know, injector, pills, grub, bunch of auto batons for some reason. Don't know why they keep putting them there, they're just not useful. Tiny chance at a grub here. I don't know why it's such a low chance. I've never seen them put a lower chance on anything else. Even bricks usually have a higher chance than 3.7%. Don't know why they put that so low. So what I like to do for this room is that I go up and I get here, I check whether or not it spawned, and if this secret doesn't spawn, then I go here through this tunnel up here. It's just a nice shortcut. You see this ladder and then you go the opposite direction of this. Just immediately grab this baton and go straight to this next room. This section here, there's 2 layers of crushes to get through, and you can get through both of these layers without waiting for them to close if you're quick. However, if you haven't just seen them separate, then I'd suggest just waiting. But you can see there that I went through both of them. However, sometimes you're going to be stuck waiting like here for these second ones to get through. That's about it for that room. It's a new one. It's interesting, but it just isn't a very powerful room. It's very slow and very difficult. But alright, there's this next room. Unlike most of the rooms of Pipeworks that present like a lot of different paths like this one, I'm pretty sure that the route that I'm showing is the best way. Just because it's very secret. So you have a like 1 in 4 chance at a grub and then a guaranteed pill bottle here. And what you want to do is go right through this little secret vent here. Okay, I did not mean to use those. I'll just wait them out. Alright, so what the heck? Okay, grub's gone. So you just go up here, you dino like this, and you can't make... Oh, you can. Interesting. So you could go like that, and then up there. And then once you're here, you can go up like this. And what I like to do is I want to crouch over the wood panel there. I accidentally took it off, but that's not a very consistent way of going about it. And then once you're through here, you can grab like this and get to the end. In this room you can see a couple item spawns, but they're all pretty much useless, and if you do want them, you can just go from here down to there. I think that's it for this room. You see that there's a blood bug right here. Can be annoying. You just gotta deal with it. Alright, next room. Oh, okay. For this room, there's a guaranteed pill bottle right here. And there's also a secret route here. I'm just gonna no clip to show you what the routes are. So you can go this normal way. Okay, there's a lot of ways to go here. I'm not gonna show you them all. I'm just gonna show you like 2 of them. Alright, so for this next room, there is a guaranteed pill bottle right here. I haven't seen that before, but when I started using this mod, it's pretty easy to see that it's there. Yeah, so there's 3 ways to go. You can use this shortcut, and then just go through here. Or you can just go through this hole, and then go up through here. Or you can go up this ladder, grab this light, go through this tunnel, and then choose whatever you want, though I think this way's faster. In my experience, oh well, no, not in my experience. In my opinion, the best route is to just go forward and then grab this little one and go through this way, because you get exposed to a couple items and you get to this place pretty quickly. once you're at this point, what you want to do is either have a barnacle put a tentacle low enough, and that just gets you to the end, or if for whatever reason, you know, the barnacles just aren't putting any tentacles low, you can just grab like this until eventually they do, or you can just keep going onto the handholds. Something to be careful of is there are 3 barnacles right next to each other here. They're going to be doing a lot of damage, especially in hard mode. So you've got to be quite careful when using the barnacle tips here. The tentacles here, not the barnacle tips. But yeah, you can also just jump across the lights and make it to the end. There's a little rebar rope spawn here, but considering how many enemies are near you, it has to be like extremely necessary for you to be able to complete I2. Another way you can go about it, instead of those first 2 routes, is to go up this way, which does have a 1 in 4 chance at a grub, but is significantly slower and also quite dangerous to go for in endless, because you're going downwards, which is just really dangerous to do in any endless run, because the mass has like a chase factor, and just going up and then down is a lot worse than just staying neutral, is what I'm trying to say, for it to be worth grabbing. And that is the last room of drainage. Next video, I'm going to be covering both pipe organ and waste heap, because those ones are a lot less dense. And yeah, that's it for drainage system. In the next video, I'm going to be covering both waste heap and pipe organ, because those rooms aren't really as dense when it comes to like different choices to make and everything. Hope you enjoyed this video, hope you found it informative. If there's anything that you'd like to add to these routes, feel free to add it into the comments section. Yeah, I like the drainage system quite a bit. Recently they had an update where they added quite a few of the later rooms and also updated some of the older rooms. And that it's a very cool look that the new levels have. What I really like about drainage is that it gives you so many different choices, and those choices aren't really right and wrong like they are in storage or shattered chambers, where there's pretty much always one path that just is better than the rest of them. This one, often you might be saving 1 or 2 seconds at the cost of quite a few items, and it's always a trade-off between these different routes. Sometimes dealing with blood bugs can be really annoying, but I like the challenge as well. Overall, drainage is actually one of my favorite sub-regions in the game. Don't know why I'm doing a rating now. This is a guide, but whatever. I can do what I want. Yeah, hope you found this informative. Hope you have fun when you're playing with this information. Leave advice in the comments. If you have any advice about the like format that I do for these videos, also I'd be very interested in that, because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I just thought it would be good if there was a guide for every room, since I haven't really seen any of that on YouTube. So yeah, goodbye.